Hi, welcome back. So the reason why that ended right there, why I ended that story, that part of the story right there, is because that's actually where it ends. That's how I pitched the idea to everyone. The peaks and valleys. I called everyone, I texted everyone, and said, "Hey, this is the plan, and blah 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 blah. I want that person to do this." I basically casted everyone on this play, and everyone was on board. We made a second story, or a second loop to, how Beast came in and helped Perrin. Well, the second part of that is if Beast didn't want to be in it, because our Chase, who was the Beast, didn't want to wrestle anymore. He just wasn't interested anymore, and that's fine. So the alternative was GTX would fill in that role, and a bunch of other stuff would have happened, and things and such and whatnot, but that's where it ended. That's where the idea, where I was writing it, ended. It ended prematurely right there, because as I was writing it, and as I was pitching the story to everyone, over the month, and it was kind of a year or whatever, every time we did a plan, people would cancel on us. So then we would have to make new scripts, new ideas, and this and that. And we would have to change everything if one person was not in it, or, And then slowly, people started to quit on us, slowly, one by one. And the only people who were really still a part of it were me, Jacob, and Perrin, Wild Suicide, Carnage, and Armageddon. And even then, Armageddon was barely in it, and our good friend Ray X was a part of it. But then Jacob said he wanted a break, or something like that. Now, so even though this was a bunch of kids doing backyard things, kind of cosplaying in a way, kind of just make-believing on YouTube, I took it very seriously. Me and Jacob both did. And so when he quit, or not he quit, I thought he quit. One big misunderstanding. When everything happened, I got upset. And, I just got frustrated. Because I would write these ideas and people would be doing half-ass work and whatever. I was very frustrated. I was very mad. And this is where art imitates life. So I used that fuel, that hatred, that anger that I had for UXW, and I used it for real. And so the Anarchy Era came a little bit earlier, because I didn't want to continue doing UXW. I was frustrated. I didn't want to work with people anymore. I hated it. I hated the people I was working with. I was upset with my friends. I even hated our fans, who did nothing wrong. But I kept hearing these comments, and people kept emailing me saying, when's the next UXW episode? When's the next UXW episode? And hearing all of that, knowing that all this bullshit was happening behind the scenes, it frustrated me. So I used that real fuel and made the video. Me in my garage, and my Wild Suicide get up, just angry and venting, and that was the closest thing to like a CM Punk pipe bomb. Him and I think it was Las Vegas, across, in Indian style with a mic in his hand on the platform, just saying all the bullshit that was happening in WWE. And this was me. And I didn't even have CM Punk in mind when I was doing it. I was just angry, and I knew I needed to use this anger and use this for good, or else I would hurt somebody, or, or hurt a friend emotionally, not physically. I'm not that violent. And I would say things that I regret, and I just knew if I could use this for art, then maybe something will turn out good. I posted that video without anyone's knowledge. I didn't tell anyone about that video. And the reaction that I got was the reaction that I wanted. I wanted everyone to be mad at me. I wanted all my friends to kind of, just have a mean look towards me. And maybe this is my inner mad genius peaking, or whatever it is. I just know that the reaction that I got was the reaction that I wanted. Even from some of the viewers, people were mad at me. Honestly, I didn't expect the reaction from the fans. I wanted it, and I got it, but I didn't know it was going to happen. I was like, oh my god, it actually happened. So the key player here was Jacob Carnage, or Brett Jacobs, whatever it is. He texted me, and he just simply texted me how hurt he was and how upset he was. And I said, I know you're upset. I want you upset. I want you to use the very thing that you're mad at me. There's a train behind me, and it's so fucking loud, but I don't know why they're honking their horn. No one's here. No one's in the road. Who are they honking at? Who are they tooting at? Okay, sorry. So, I don't know if you can hear that in the video, but I'm so pissed off. So anyways, I said, I want you to use this anger that you have for me, and I want you to use it for Carnage. Some of the greatest stories in history, not only in wrestling, but in books, in movies, comic books even, comes from a personal vein. When you use reality into art, you can get real emotions. You can get real depth through character, through anything. And this is my theater head talking. This is my movie buff talking. Going back to a great example of this, the Montreal Screwjob. That was not planned. Bret Hart didn't know he was going to get screwed that day. And yet, McMahon, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, everyone who was involved with that whole bullshit turned it on its head and used it for their art, for the Attitude Era, one of the greatest eras in wrestling history. That's where you get the Stone Colds, the Rocks, etc. So, through this whole thing, I wasn't even thinking about WWE. I was just thinking about UXW. I was thinking about my project, my art, and how I can use this anger, this rage, this thing that I can't get off my chest or off my back, and use it. So I told Jacob, I know you're mad at me. I know you're pissed off at me. I know in a way I kind of betrayed our friendship by taking something personal and putting it out into the public. And I want you to use that. I know for a fact I wasn't going to work with Perrin or Ray X or GTX. Because at the time, and I'm not bitter. I'm actually cool. I hope those lines don't get crossed. I'm good. At the time, I was very bitter, and I knew that they weren't reliable or anything like that. So I just knew. I told Jacob I want to end UXW. I don't want to keep getting my hopes high for a great story just for it to fall on its face and never to be used. I want it ended on the two people who started it. And I don't want just one match. I want 3 matches with this. I want this long, milked feud to be stretched and pulled and ripped to its very core. I want it to come to a point where it's not Wild Suicide talking to Carnage. It's not Chris Scott talking to Carnage. Or to Brett Jacobs. It's Christian Scott talking to Jacob Carney. And just spitting out what was so fucked up about each other. Our frustrations. Honestly, what was going through my head the whole time was in WWE. It's the weirdest thing. It was Epic Rap Battles of History. Nice Peter versus Epic Lloyd, the 2 creators of Epic Rap Battles of History, had 2 videos of them going against each other, rapping against each other, just telling them the frustrations that they had behind the scenes. And every word that they said, I felt. And I was like, I gotta use that somewhere. So it finally comes down to it. And I finally told him, 3 matches. The first match would just be a regular balls to the walls brawl match. So would the second one. The last match would be an Iron Man match. The Iron Man match idea was from one of our first fans. What's his name? I forget his name. But he said he suggested an Iron Man match, and we always put it off. And I was like, let's end it by giving it to him, our first fan. Let him be happy. And the first promo that we did of us just talking to each other, I don't even think everyone got what we were talking about. I just know that we knew what we were talking about. The thing with the title is we had 3 titles throughout all of UXW history. We had one that I made out of duct tape and cardboard and foil and paint. And then we had a second one that Jacob bought. It was a replica title, I guess, but it was a custom made. You can make the design yourself. And I love that one because you can make it your own. And then all of a sudden, even though he bought it, I, at the time, felt like it was ours. It wasn't just his, it was ours. And the fact that he sold it without me knowing, I got very pissed off at that. And, and he traded it in for a WWE title, the Attitude Era title. And I told him, even when we first started, this is years of build-up. Because we started this when we were 15. And to show you how long this was, I'm 18 now. And I was 18 in the Anarchy Era. So it's a pretty wide stretch of frustration, of friendship, just going into one place. And so when we first started UXW, he said, oh, let's get this title. And it was replica titles of already companies. And I didn't like that. I wanted our own title because I didn't want to piggyback off of WWE or TNA or anything like that. So the fact that he got that, I was pissed off. So I used that. And I used the fact that we had no GM. The last GM we had, I hope he doesn't mind mentioning it. It's a long time going. Was his girlfriend, a good friend of mine, Michaela Blake, and we had no GM now because they broke up, sadly, and whatever. And I wanted to use that. I wanted to exploit the shit out of that. But I knew that, we can only go so far. And so I only mentioned it just a little bit. Right before he muffed my face, I said boo-hoo or something like that. And I wanted to exploit the shit out of that, but I was like, no. So we had no GM because of that. We had no ring or no trampoline. Busted a hole right in the middle, and even ruined it throughout the Anarchy Era matches. And just used it for we used all that rage for every promo. And here's the thing: the first 2 matches of the Anarchy Era were filmed on the same day, so we had back-to-back matches right after the first grueling one. And we were so fucking exhausted by the time the second one came in. I don't even really like the second match, but it had some good storytelling in it. But it is one of my least favorites out of the 3. Yeah. So we used all this real life heat. And by the time the 3rd match came in, I said, because I wanted to win the first 2. And that's just to give him an underdog type story. Even though he's pretty much a A-lister, I wanted to give him an underdog story in some way. He loses the first 3 matches, so that must mean Suicide might be going away the 3rd time, winning the 3rd time. Or, whatever the case might be. Honestly, I barely cared. I didn't write it down. This is all kind of... so, geez, I'm trying to think. So, by the time the 3rd one came in, I said, you lost the first 2 matches. Now you're very angry. I want you to shoot a promo of you kind of saying you're going to win the title and you're going to be the last champion. I'm going to attack the shit out of you. I'm going to bust your leg. And I really hurt his leg in that. When you're friends, you can hurt each other as long as you can smile at the end, but we really hurt each other. He went through tacks for real. I wanted all the odds to be pressed against him so that victory can actually... I was thinking about him throughout the whole thing, just wanting him to have that good victory of all that hard work. So he had a busted leg for real. He went through tacks. We both went through this sheet, it's like you can use it. It's easy to break through, but it hurts like crap. And on top of that, when we went through that table-like thing, the trampoline was ripped. So we broke through it. We hit what little of a trampoline we had, and we pretty much just hit the ground. And what was underneath the trampoline was crutches. So we landed on crutches on top of that. All of that hurt. I was supposed to get the pin in that match, or at least on that part. I was so hurt. I was just like, just pin me, dude. And he was like, okay. So my feet are getting numb. So I wanted all the odds to be pressed against him so that when he wins, he can actually feel really good. Because no one, I don't know, a great fight in movies and in TV show is when the hero is going, when the odds are against him, it seems like. One of the greatest fight directors is Jackie Chan. He said he never wanted to be the strong guy who's just knocking out 20 guys at once, and he comes out on top, because what's the fun of that? We know he was going to win. He wanted some, in all of his matches, or in all of his fights in every movie, he wanted a little bit of, he wanted the odds against him, you know? Whether he's handcuffed or in a dress or in a towel or whatever the case may be. And I used that, so I was like, Jacob's got to use that. I wrote that for him. So, and the reason why I wanted that victory to be so sweet, not only because he deserves it, a great friend of mine, and he's been there through thick and thin, but also because I remember, even though this is backyard wrestling, this is not the pros or anything like that, when I won the UXW championship on high altitude, it felt really, really good. And in that match, I got my ass kicked, honestly. I was not, you know, I got my ass kicked. Jacob really kicked my ass, and so did Beast. Those boxes hurt for some reason. I'm rambling. I'm so sorry. So it comes to an end. He pins me finally. But right before then, through all the shit talking throughout every match, through all this drama, it just kind of boils down to Christian Scott talking to Jacob Carney, and that last shot that was filmed on this phone because the camera got cut off or something like that. You can tell because it turns from like a square I forget the words. I'm just to a square to a wide all of a sudden. But anyways, that final shot, I just kind of say, you know, I was hurt and whatever. I was just like, hey. He's like, hey. And I was just kind of like, okay, let's get this over with. He hits me with his finisher. 1, 2, 3. Carnage is the champion. And we hug it out. I legit started to just kind of tear up because that you know, that's, even though I towards the end I really just didn't like UXW because I was a bitter guy. You know, that's 15, 16, 17, 18, it's 4 years of work that's finally going to end. And you know, that was a great journey that I had with Carnage, with Brett Jacobs, and with Jacob Carney. And you know, that's how the Anarchy Era that we put out on YouTube ended. I don't know I think I prefer the way it ended better because, again, I love reality. Even though the Anarchy Era that I had for this showed wild suicide and this arcing character in ways that I didn't get to express as much, I still had an arc, you know. I started off as the fan favorite, the curses like a sailor, filthy mouth, inappropriate jokes and bad jokes, goofy clown, insane dude, to this character who's just fed up with UXW bullshit and becomes a heel. It gets tired of the fans and whatnot, and it's a real personal page in our book that we finally got to close. So that's behind the scenes. It started off with me just looking and finding all of the gear that was in my closet, to me reading out the scripts and all the ideas, to me getting deep into the story of UXW. So yeah, that's it. That's how I'm gonna end this thing. Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed all of this. I still don't have an outro. Just close that up.